Bonjour and good afternoon. Welcome to WASA Distance Education, and we are starting with, and I just see my first mistake here, we are starting with PLAR Geography this week. So we finished the PLAR History, and we are now working on our PLAR Geography Lessons 1 to 2. It is week 6, it's right after our March break, so hopefully everyone has had a good break. It's supposed to be the first day of spring, but it does certainly not look like it. So, but you know what? We need the snow for the lakes so that we can enjoy some fishing, maybe, if the lakes are not too low. So it's not too late to contact your local DEC or Candace or Michelle here at WASA if you want to register for this year. You can go to our online form, which is see this link here. So you can go to that, and it would look like this. It's called a Power Form Signer Information. You would need to put in your full name and your email address. So that's the most important part, is you need an email address. If you do not have one, and if you're wanting to register with WASA, all WASA students or NNEC students are provided an email, so we can set that up for you if you would like to apply that way. So again, this is just an online application form so that you can apply for a course at WASA. You can also use a hard copy. So here is what we have for a hard copy application form. It's right here on the slide. So you can register for independent learning or IL courses at any time during the school year, but you have to complete that course on or before June 13th, 2024. Okay, so if you apply now, you have to have it completed by June 13th, 2024. And you can expect regular contacts by phone, email, or using social media from the teacher. So if you're looking at the application form, we will just need some details, your name, your mailing address, your last school information, so that we can get your transcript. If you don't have a transcript available, our counselors can get it for you, but we do need the last school information. If you're applying for PLAR, that means that you do not have 16 grade 9, 10 credits. So let's say, for example, you only have 10 grade 9, 10 credits, then you will need 6 more. And Junior PLAR will provide those last 6 equivalent credits. And then the rest is for our office use only. Okay, let's continue here. Also a reminder to students, if you're needing so if you're not able to attend the Zoom classes, or if you're having problems accessing Wi-Fi or internet, you can request a USB of classes. And again, with these classes, you can view these on your laptop, television, or Xbox, or PlayStation. Once you get the USB, you can click open the lesson, and then you can listen or view the classes that you want to watch. So notice here, this is for the PLAR History, and it shows you the component name, which is PLAR History, the lesson, so this one says lessons 2 to 3, and then the key questions 32 to 36. So if you're having any problems with any key questions between 32 and 36, then that's the class that you would watch. At the end of Term 2A, which is April 12th, is the last day of Term 2A, WASA will have 2 student draws. Now, one for students who earned a credit, The draw for these students will be a Dell laptop, and then one for students who submit work. And for those students, the prize is an iPad mini. So be sure to submit your work to your teacher to be entered into the draw. Just remember, if you're working on more than one course, you will have your names entered for each subject that you submit work for. Okay, so I know some of you are working on 2 courses. So if you're working on the dual credit and you're working on an English credit, then that means you have 2 courses that if you're submitting work for, then your names will be entered for those courses. Okay, so for this week, we are in week 6. You can see that lesson 1 is human geography. Next week, we will look at physical geography and continue on to week 9, where we have the physical geography, and also we will do the review for the 2 lessons and look at the culminating activity. So for those students who have received their PLAR history culminating activity, make sure you complete it and then return to me. So here is an example of the mark sheet that you will receive once you start submitting key questions for PLAR geography. And again, it's the key questions. The support questions are there for practice. So if you do those questions, make sure you look at the back of the lesson as the answers are in there. So you can self-check to make sure that you are working on them and you're on the right track. So as you can see, there are 31 key questions. Lesson 1 has 13 key questions. Lesson 2, you have key questions 14 to 31, which is a total of 18 key questions. Once you're ready to submit your work, there are several ways that you can submit them for marking. Most popular is probably sending it through Messenger. So you basically scan your completed key questions and then you send us the scanned copy or the scanned picture of your work. Another popular one is to email directly to studentwork@nnec.on.ca. Make sure that you CC it to the teacher that's marking your work so that we know we have work coming in from you. You can also send it through Google Classroom. So remember, if you are using Google Classroom, that there are 2 class codes, one for your personal Gmail and the other one is for NNEC schools. So if you're trying to log into Google Classroom, so you will notice right on the cover page it says Google Classroom code using NNEC schools account. It's VII45K5. If you're using your personal account, the class code for that is 2HZLHET. So if you're having problems getting in there, make sure to let me know. Again, if when you're trying to access an account, make sure that you're logged off completely from another account, because that's one way why sometimes it won't let you go to another account. It's because you're logged in somewhere else. An easier option is to just share. Okay, so just share to me what you have completed using Google Docs. Once you completed the key questions, you will notice that the lock feature is on, meaning that any work that you are working on is only private to you. So if you want to share that with a teacher, you click the share button, it will unlock it, and you will be asked to input an email address. So in this case, it's jmercer@nnec.on.ca. Once you enter that in there, then you can customize how you want to share it with me, whether I can edit it or you're just sharing it for me to view it, and then I can simply print it off and submit your work for you. Okay, so again, whichever is the easiest way for you to submit your key questions. Sometimes students will have their DEC scan and fax it for them. Or if you're within the Sioux Lookout area, you can always stop by here at WASA, 74 Front Street. There is a side entrance, the one facing the post office, and there's the WASA outdoor mailbox. Or you can just simply knock on our door and someone will take your assignments in for you. Okay, so let's get started with Lesson 1, PLAR Geography. For this afternoon, we will look at the concepts of geographical thinking on page 4, human geography on page 7, also economic geography also on page 7, North American Free Trade Agreement on page 7, and Trade and Human Rights page 8. And then if we have time, we might get to start industry sectors like primary, secondary, or the tertiary or service sector on page 9. So let's see how far we can get for this afternoon. Learning goals, what you will learn for lesson 1 is I can identify and describe the concepts of geographical thinking, and I can identify significant aspects of economic, urban, and military geography. Okay, so just keep in mind we are looking at human geography. So if you're following along, you can turn to page 4. So these lessons will focus on the main concepts of geographical thinking, as well as some significant aspects of human and physical geography in Canada. So first of all, let's look at the term geography. Well, the ancient Greeks created the word geography from the roots of ge for earth, so ge means earth, and grapho for to write. So in other words, writing about and studying the earth. Okay, geographers also learn about people and culture. So you could have cultural geography. And the planet Earth, also known as physical geography. So why should we study geography? Well, studying geography is important because we all need to make smart decisions about choices involving the environment and society. We also need to study our own locality, so depending on where you live, and also build our own sense of identity and self-esteem while learning to respect diversity through appreciating other people's places and culture. Okay, geography is also about the daily news that determines our future. So this morning you might have looked at the weather. So if you're traveling somewhere and you might have said it doesn't look like the weather is good for today, and you might decide not to travel. Or you might decide to postpone your travel and travel later on the week. Okay, so that's what it means by determining our future using geography. Geographic literacy is also necessary for us to understand global events and culture. So look at for this year, just look at our weather, and it says February 2024, and it's an anomaly, meaning it's not the usual kind of weather that we get during the winter. So the red shows you the temperatures were in the high range. Last week, I know coming back from Thunder Bay, at one point it said that it was plus 16. Then the pattern for March 2024 now shows you cooler weather. Okay, nearing Ontario there, but it's still warmer down southern Ontario, Quebec, and down the east coast area. Okay, so we are going to look at some significant aspects of human geography in Canada. So to investigate issues in geography, students must analyze the influences and interrelationships that give a place its distinctive characteristics and thus its spatial importance. So geographic analysis will also require you to investigate the economic, environmental, social, and political perspectives that relate to an issue. So when you think about human geography, you can ask where and why. So for example, in human activities, it could be religions, cities, businesses. They are located where they are for a certain reason. And then in physical geography, same question, where and why. So natural forces like vegetation, landforms, climates, they happen as they do. So where does that happen and why does it happen? So let's look at the key concepts of geographical thinking, and then we will use to analyze the concepts covered in the course. So in the Ontario curriculum, there are 4 central concepts of geographical thinking. There's the spatial significance, number 2, patterns and trends, number 3, interrelationships, and number 4, geographic perspective. So in geographical thinking, we are thinking about the importance of a place or region. We also explore the connections between the geographical location and the physical characteristics of a place. And then we analyze the unique relationships between the natural and human environments in a particular place. So together, these concepts can help us to understand the place. So things like regions, ecozones, economics, or climate change, and then at the same time develop your geographic literacy and critical thinking skills, and then understand how places can have significance in your own life. So if you look at the picture on the left, one question you can ask is, do people live here? So you can see the background, there's a mountain, there's a lake. And then another question on the right. This is another place. Do people live here? So let's look at the first one, is spatial significance. So when you hear the word home, what do you think of? So do you think of a specific location? Or do you think of a specific community? Or do you even think about a specific country? So for many people, the idea of home is linked to a place, or for some people, several places that has special significance for them. Okay, so you're looking at a deeper understanding of place. It helps you to develop your geographic literacy, assess geographic data, and understand how places can have significance in your own life. Okay, so the meaning of spatial significance is the importance of a place or region, whether its unique physical characteristics or natural or human relationships in this location. So here are some of the types of tasks that involve the concept of spatial significance. The first thing is identifying where places are located on the Earth's surface based on natural and or human characteristics. So where is this place? Where is this located? What's there that's natural, and what's there that's man-made? Also analyzing, whoops, keeps moving here, analyzing the importance of spatial distribution of people. So a place might be, might have a lot of people living in it. Are there plentiful of plants, animals, resources, Earth's physical processes? So basically you're asking what is where, why there, and why care. For example, how might the uniqueness of a destination make it more appealing to some and less appealing to others? So if you're planning for a vacation, you might choose a place that's more appealing to what you like to do. So for example, you might like underwater scuba diving, or maybe you prefer to do some skiing. So the uniqueness of the destination will determine where a person might want to go. Now for businesses, when a business is deciding where to place a new location, they use the spatial perspective. So for example, real estate agents consider the spatial perspective when they're sending clients details of houses they might want to buy. Even if you're choosing where to go on holiday or which school to send your kids to, involves the spatial perspective. Okay, spatial just means relating to or occupying space. And what it means here, when you choose a location that's near a school, for example, or you might choose where there's easy access to transportation. So for example, if your family did not have a vehicle, or you want to be closer to your work, so easy access to either services or transportation. Okay, so all those things are important. So if you look here, your home has a relative location. That means where is it located in relation to, as I mentioned, schools, stores, convenient transportation. And there's also what's called an absolute location. So absolute location is a particular location of something. So for example, my location is here. So let's say I'm going to input that. It's in Sioux Lookout. And so you can do this on Google Map. So you go for directions. Notice there's different ways you can choose for directions. So you can use walking, biking, air travel. So this one I chose the car. So when I'm looking for the directions, it's going to provide for me how to get to, and there's my destination, to Toronto, using a vehicle. So you would put Toronto, Ontario, and you can add destinations. So if you want to make a stop, for example, in Thunder Bay or Sault Ste. Marie or Sudbury, then you could add those, and it will give you directions. So according to to Google Maps, from Sioux Lookout to Toronto, and it gives me the fastest route, taking Highway 17. It's 18 hours and 43 minutes, or 1,766 kilometers. Or if I take Highway 11, it will be longer, not that much longer, 19 hours and 19 minutes, or 1,830 kilometers. So many navigation or GPS systems use relative and absolute locations. And like I said, this is the current location is your starting point into a mapping system like Google Maps. Next up is patterns and trends. Now, the concept of patterns and trends encourages us to think about characteristics that are similar in different human or natural environments. So this could be in terms of social, economic, physical, or environmental. So what geographers do is they examine connections between different places in order to see if patterns emerge. So for example, what factors contribute to high population density in a region? So why is it that there are more, so these are major Canadian cities. So you can see that on the slide here, and it's shown to you as a blue star. And then it shows you the Canadian population and dwelling counts by census division in 2016. So the darkest brown has greater than 20 to 2,250 per square kilometers. The lighter brown is greater than 7.4 to 20 per square kilometer. So you can see it's getting less and less. So the lightest is yellow, and it shows that it's 0 to 0.5 square kilometers. So that's the population. So if you're looking to live in a populated area, you would look for these places. There's Barrie, Orillia, Markham, Brampton, Toronto, Mississauga, Hamilton, and so on. So looking down at our area on the bottom of the screen here, our populous area is Thunder Bay. Okay, and again that shows the darker yellow, it's greater than 0.5 to 2. Okay, that's the population divided by area per square kilometers. Okay, next with patterns and trends. These are some of the types of tasks that involve the use of patterns and trends. So we said before, it could be identifying characteristics that are similar and that repeat within and between places or regions. Determining if these characteristics repeat over time. Analyzing why certain characteristics are similar and or repeat. And then determining the importance of why these characteristics are similar and or repeat. So for example, if it's always populated in those areas, what characteristics are similar and or repeating? It could be high employment. So it draws people to move to these areas. So here's one. We'll do an example, the environmental factors. So for example, people want to live where they feel most comfortable, or living in an area with extreme weather or climate, polar or desert conditions. These things makes daily life difficult. So for favorable settlement, the factors they might look for is fertile land for agriculture, so for farming, access to natural resources, access to water, climate that is not too hot or cold, populated areas close to major urban centers. Unfavorable settlement factors. So you might not find as many people in areas where there's mountainous areas, infertile land, lack of natural resources, extreme weather or climate conditions, and areas not located close to major urban centers. Okay, number 3 is interrelationships. So geographers know that human and natural environments are connected in many ways. So what they do is they explore how these interconnected parts of an environment work together to form systems. So the concept of interrelationship is used to understand how the relationship that exists in a system influence and impact one another. Here's an example. A geographer might analyze how the local natural environment can support economic activity for a city or First Nation. So you can see a picture here. There is garbage, disposed inappropriately. So this shows you how people affect their environment or natural surroundings and how it affects them. So this will pollute the land and pollute the water. So we're looking at the relationship between humans and the environment. So 3 key concepts that we want to look at in regards to human or environment relationship. First is that humans depend on the environment. So the natural environment is made up of living things and non-living things. Humans depend on the natural environment for their basic needs, so food, shelter, and clothing. And then how does humans modify the environment? So modify means how do we change or alter it? So people modify the natural environment to meet their needs. For example, they build dams, plow and irrigate fields, and dig mines. They also build houses, schools, and shopping centers on land. So understanding the interrelationships between the social and economic issues facing our indigenous populations who live on reserve and factors that make a community sustainable. So in order for communities to be livable, they need to be sustainable. So let's look at what it looks like. So what does a sustainable community look like? So right in the middle of this chart are the factors affecting sustainability for a community. So how do we measure if a community is sustainable? Well, there's, we count here, we have 3, 5, 6, 7, 8 factors. So it doesn't just involve the environment and carbon footprints, but also the well-being of a community. For example, what is the quality of life for its community members? Will there be jobs available? So these are vital factors that need to be factored in when looking at the sustainability of a community. So first of all, economy. Okay, will there be jobs? Will there be industries? Quality of life. So we're thinking of health and wellness. Will there be employment, physical or mental health? Will that be available to them? The location of the community. So for example, let's say the community is Fort Hope. That location is accessible by plane and or winter road, okay, during the winter. What's the climate like in Fort Hope? How long is the growing season? Carbon footprints of individuals. So we're looking at garbage. So for example, for each household, how much garbage they would have. For traveling, so their carbon footprint, how much they will travel. What about the food that they eat? Okay, another factor when you're looking at sustainability for a community are methods of waste disposal. So how will they dispose sewage? Will they have a water treatment plant? What kind of energy will they have? Will they have fossil fuels like coal, oil, or gas? Or will they have solar, water, or wind? Okay, and finally, what about environmental initiatives? Will they have recycling available? Can they have their own garden? So what's the soil like? Or composting? Okay, so these are some of the factors that could affect sustainability in a community. Okay, and finally, geographic perspective. So the concept of geographic perspective allows us to consider the environmental, economic, political, and or social implications of the topics we are exploring. So in order to solve problems, or make decisions or judgments, or make research plans, we need to develop the ability to examine issues from many perspectives. Here's an example. Geographers might ask how cultural diversity can enrich the life of a community and increase economic activity. So cultural diversity means it's a place's openness to different cultures and ethnicity. Okay, Saskatchewan has experienced a significant demographic shift in population, including the trend of being a more culturally diverse population. In 2015 alone, Saskatchewan welcomed 11,256 new residents as a result of international migration. So again, 3 simple ideas for geographic perspective. There are reasons for things being where they are. Okay, there are advantages for things being in appropriate places. And finally, there are penalties for things being in the wrong places. So some questions. What is there? Where is it? Why is it there? What are the effects of it being there? How and why is it changing over time? Should it be like this? What groups are involved? What do different groups think? And what action is appropriate? So you see a map of Canada on the bottom of this slide. And this shows you the Newfoundland Railway that operated on the island of Newfoundland from 1898 to 1988. In December 1987, the provincial and federal governments signed a deal worth $800 million for highway improvements. So you can see the red is Via Rail, the blue is Via Rail Corridor, the orange is Ontario Northland, the green is Keewatin Railway operated by Via Rail. You have the green, which is Algoma Central Railway, which is also a division of CN Rail. Then you have the Keewatin Rail Transportation. The blue is Via Rail Corridor. And then you have Amtrak, which is green. So what you notice is in 1898 to 1988, so it says here December 1987, the provincial federal government signed a deal for highway improvements. Notice that Newfoundland did not have a railway. So theirs ended in 88. If you look at the Via Rail, where do you see these operating? So it operated Halifax to Montreal, and then Moncton to Quebec. Also goes through Sioux Lookout, Winnipeg, Churchill, Saskatoon, Edmonton, Jasper. And then it shows you the frequency of the trains. So the heavier line, it operates 5 to 7 trains per week, and then you see the skinny 2 trains per week. Okay, so that's what we're seeing here now in Sioux Lookout is showing 3 trains per week each way. So again, you're answering questions. Why is it there? What are the effects of it being there? How and why is it changing over time? So I guess over time, Newfoundland did not have the need to have the railway there anymore, so they took it off altogether. Amtrak, you can see where it's needed. Popular area, or populous area, sorry. Kingston, Montreal, Niagara Falls, Albany, New York. And then the Via Rail corridor, you can see again operating in Quebec, Ottawa, Sarnia, Windsor, and so on. So things are there for a reason, okay, depending on the need and the groups that are involved. Okay, so what we can do is we can try and look at our first key question for PLAR Geography. So remember, you do not need internet or Wi-Fi to complete the key questions. Most, if not all of the key questions are hand questions. That means you can put your hand or your finger right on the answer. Remember, you'll be required to complete the key questions successfully to be eligible to write the PLAR Geography culminating activity. So doing the key questions prepares you for doing the culminating. So the culminating is an open book test. And as I said, if you do the support questions, those are just for practice, so you don't have to submit them for marking, and answers are available at the end of this lesson if you want to check out your answers. Okay, so let's look at the first key question. There's space for you to write your answers. A lot of the students are still preferring to write them on a sheet of paper. That's fine. You don't have to rewrite the key questions. You just simply label it. So if you're doing the key question, so the student, here's an example of what the student did. This is for lesson 1, so you would just put lesson 1, write down the key question number. So key question 1, so I know which question you're answering. And of course, don't forget to put your name on top so I know who it's from. You will also notice that the key questions are in order. So if you write down the key question number and it's between number 1 and 13, then I know you're answering key questions from lesson 1. Okay, the first one says identify and describe the 4 concepts of geographical thinking. So make sure when you're doing this that you're identifying and you're describing. So we talked about the 4 concepts. So I simply just wrote 1 to 4. So the first one is spatial significance. So now I identified the first concept of geographical thinking. Then I want you to just write a brief description of what the spatial significance mean, and you do that for 2, 3, and 4. So patterns and trends, interrelationships, and geographic perspective. So I showed you an example of what the student wrote here. Spatial significance is basically all the plants, water, and animals of a place or region and how they relate to people. So notice how it's easier if the student probably wrote 1, and then patterns and trends for 2. Interrelationships would be 3, and then geographic perspective for 4. Okay, so that's all you have to do there. Okay, next up on page 7, okay, is human geography. So human geography is the human, political, and cultural branch of geography. And the human part of geography focuses on how humans adapt themselves to the land and to other people that's living in the area. So it deals with economics, urbanism, and the military. So human activities. So if you're looking at urban geography, would be the study of cities and urban spaces. Economic geography, the study of the distribution and organization of economic activities. So again, these are all part of human geography. Cultural, we mentioned, study of the diversity and interaction of cultures and identities. Political involves the study of spatial aspects of political systems and conflicts. Social is the study of social relations and inequalities in space. Population geography, here is where we study of the distribution and dynamics of human population. And then finally, historical geography focuses on the study of the geographic patterns and processes in past times. Okay, so it involves a lot of subgroups for human geography. Okay, economic geography. This studies the impact of economic activities on the landscape and then investigates reasons behind the locations of economic activities. Looking at both the US and Canada, we have a free enterprise economic systems. Canada is a major exporter of minerals and agricultural products, and it also has a large manufacturing and service industry. Now, industry just means where you manufacture goods in a factory. One thing that can influence a natural resource availability is climate. So particularly where it concerns agriculture and forestry products. Also involves working conditions and productivity. So for example, lakes can freeze and thaw, or droughts can last for months. So if you have a severe drought and weather pattern changes, it may cause a shortage of crops used for food, apparel, and other products. So you can see a picture here. There's an extreme drought in Canadian prairies, causes a rough start to growing season. Economic geography also deals with the acquisition. That means acquiring or getting materials and products and selling these products. So again, Canada and the US, they are highly developed economies. They're able to harvest raw materials, and they can also manufacture their own goods through industry. Okay, another term is trade surplus. So trade, they are also able to trade their excess goods to other countries in exchange for other materials or money. So if you have a country that has more goods to export or to go out of the country than goods that are imported, so stuff that's coming into the country, then that country is said to have a trade surplus. So here's an example. You have Canada exporting 308 billion, and then you have US importing to Canada 320 billion. Okay, so obviously US has more that's going out, and Canada has less that's being exported. So try the next key question before we go, which is number 2, and number 3. So what is economic geography? And then how does climate influence economic geography? And then you give one example. Okay, and we just finished looking at that. So again, if you're not sure, go to page 7, or make sure you read page 7. The answers are there. Okay, look for the key terms, economic geography, and in key question 3, look at the word climate influencing economic geography. Okay, that's it for today, and I'll talk to you again on Thursday. Miigwech.